and they're adaptogens. They help the body adapt to whatever situation it's under. So if you're under a lot of pressure, if you're under a lot of stress, ashwagandha and holy basil are kind of there to help support that individual. We have the B vitamins in there. We have the mental support, which is the GABA and L-theanine. And L-theanine, you could also find it in per se green tea. And then from that, we also have the calming herbs, the lavender, lemon balm, passion flower. These are really, really good to help support the nerves.
Your health's going to be better because you didn't have this elevated stress as high as it would have been without the help of these herbs and vitamins and amino acids that help your body deal with stress and anxiety.
For more information, please visit us at rcherbals.com.
Dominique Ostrander is my guest. She's an educator for Jarrow Formulas. Jarrow Formulas is one of my favorite supplement companies. If you were to come to my home and look at my pantry where all my supplements are, you will see more than a few Jarrow products there. Quite a few. Trust them. I trust what they do, the way they formulate, how they handle raw materials, where they get the raw materials. I know Jarrow Rogovan. Dominique knows them better than I. But action. This is what many doctors routinely do without ever addressing why cholesterol, blood pressure, or blood sugar is abnormal in the first place, she writes. I used to practice this way until I realized that all I was doing was covering up the downstream effects of poor diet with a bunch of drugs instead of changing the food. I'm a practicing cardiologist. I trained at some of the finest medical institutions in the world, including Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins, and have been repeatedly recognized for great patient care. But what I really want to achieve professionally is to put myself out of work. Unfortunately, cardiologists have endless job security, she writes. And that's because we're treating the wrong thing, she insists. My waiting room was full of patients whose numbers I had made perfect, but who still looked sick and felt terrible. This is a remarkable comment by this doctor. She goes on, she goes on to say, let me pick it up. There may be 30,000 food items in the average grocery store, but none of them has been subjected to any real scientific scrutiny. They bear all sorts of check marks and heart symbols, but that tells only part of the story. For example, a cereal might contain fiber, she writes, and boldly tout the ability of this nutrient to lower cholesterol. But the fine print reveals that a serving of the cereal also delivers added sugar equivalent of 3 cookies. And any positive health effect of fiber is completely negated. But how is the average consumer supposed to know this? They're not. They are just supposed to like the taste and feel good about that cereal. My patients have been trying to eat better, but they were getting duped. 2 decades ago, she wrote, the National Institutes of Health cholesterol guidelines mandated that changing diet should be tried for 3 months as the first step in treating high cholesterol before putting anyone on drugs. But today, many of my peers express skepticism that a food-based solution could work. It took more than 80,000 hours of training for me to become a cardiologist. Whoa. How much of that time was spent on nutrition? 0. I'll stop there. You can find the rest of that at CNN. That's a remarkable statement, Dominique. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, I agree. It's hard, I'm very leery of people that have a product to sell. While her points are extremely well taken and have obvious validity, I am a little apprehensive about, again, an agenda with a backstory that has a product to sell behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree with her. I do agree with the points that she's making and the overuse of statins. You and I have talked about this on the radio. We've had, was it Dr. McAllister? We had other physicians.
Yeah,
on the
Dr.
air with us that were talking about. Right.
Dr. McAllister said Dr. McAllister said if cardiologists had their way, they would put statin in the water.
And in the water, exactly. And so, while I understand the popularity of this drug, I also understand its effectiveness. I do. I comprehend that. And as long as people are making the crappy food choices that they're making and living in extraordinarily sedentary lifestyles, I don't see this changing anytime soon. So her recommendation for foods that are easily accessible, ready to eat, just easy breezy, because that's what people want, it has its place. But again, the backstory is that she's selling something, and so I'm a little,
You're skeptical.
Yeah, I would say so. But it's not that it takes away its truth, though. Does that make sense? I think she's found a need. She found the need.
Don't be stressed out or anxious. Take hemp.
It was only meant to be taken for short durations at a time, no longer than 6 months. If you're going to take it longer than that, then you could switch over to the red label.
Then we make a liquid. Liquid, of course, is for 1, people that can't swallow pills, and 2, for children. That liquid also has the homeopathics added to it. And then the last in the family is our newest, which is the Clear Lungs Chest Rub.
And the chest rub is designed for all ages. So if you tend to have a lot of chest congestion, or if you tend to have sinuses, this is really good formulation for that. So another question that we also get asked a lot is, well, can I take the formulas together? Can I take the liquid and the capsules? Absolutely. Can I do the chest rub and the liquid, or the chest rub and the capsules? Absolutely, no problem. You could intertwine them if necessary. Breathing, it's just a natural part of life. And so obviously we can't see toxins in the air. So we know that obviously if you live in a heavily polluted environment, or if you're around chemical factories, or if you're around secondhand smoke a lot, anything that we represent as being a burden to the lungs, we know that Clear Lungs is there for that individual.
We make it safe, we make it effective, we do the testing on it, so it's brought into 13 herbs that are perfectly balanced.
For more information, please visit us at rcherbals.com.
Tampa, Florida. Mike has a question for you, Dominique. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Garko. It's always good to talk to you. I had actually two questions, if I may. The first one is I mentioned to your helper there is there a difference between resveratrol and resveratrol as far as their benefits? And the second one, if you have time, is what's the maximum doses of PQQ to take in a day?
Two good questions. Dominique, you want to try to answer some of these? Answer these two questions?
I'm not sure if resveratrol is another name for like a mega dose resveratrol. That's not something we use. That's not something I'm very familiar with.
That trans it's the chemical structure of resveratrol and resveratrol glucoside, where you have trans resveratrol has a different chemical structure than cis resveratrol. I don't want to get into the chemical weeds on this. It's a little tedious. There are some claims that the trans resveratrol is supposed to be better, but Quackwatch doesn't seem to support that. And it's back. It has something to do with the chemical structure. And I'm looking at it right now, as a matter of fact. I'm looking at and I can see that they're just different on how the chemical is organized, the compound is organized. But resveratrol is a very important compound, right? It's a polyphenolic compound from the family of stilbenes, right, Dominique?
Oh, right, exactly.
And you sell resveratrol.
And that's a trans stilbene, right? That's a trans parastilbene.
Mm-hmm.
That's the family that's in.
What does Jarrow Formula say about its use?
Well, it enhances vascular relaxation. It helps reduce LDL oxidation, improves bone strength. It neutralizes pollutants while exhibiting numerous other beneficial physiological effects. We use resveratrol because of its phytoestrogens. They're highly protective. And again, phytoestrogens in general, that's a pretty broad subject, but they have a lot of benefits, again, from lowering LDL, speaking of cholesterol today.
Now,
with a lot of other...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say with a host of other beneficial effects.
Now, in laboratory studies with animals, Michael, resveratrol administration has increased the lifespans of yeast, worms, fruit flies, fish, mice who have been fed a high-calorie diet. In those experiments, they gave them resveratrol. Whether or not resveratrol will have that kind of effect with humans, yeast, worms, fruit flies, fish, and mice are not humans. So, but in laboratory studies with animals, they've had remarkable effects with resveratrol. Some call it an anti-aging compound. It's a legitimate compound, no question about it. And there are, I haven't had a chance to go and randomize controlled trials with resveratrol, and they show positive effects. So I'm just saying it's legitimate. And his second question was about how much, what was it?
PQQ.
How much PQQ to take a day?
Well, we recommend 20 milligrams.
Can it benefit you to take more than that?
Exceed 20. Well, there are studies that will have as high as 40 milligrams. Jarrow formulas, our dosages are 10 milligrams and 20 milligrams.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the clinical trials, that's probably I haven't looked, I haven't checked, but PQQ, those clinical trials with PQQ, I suspect they're probably using dosage levels around 10 milligrams, 5 milligrams. I don't know. I have to check.
The sleep studies actually were at 30.
30 milligrams? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think you would need to take more than that, Michael.
Okay.
And as with resveratrol, I am just not sure how much truth there is that trans-resveratrol is more bioavailable. That's the claim, that it's more bioavailable.
Dr. Gargo, since you mentioned components, could you comment on the usefulness of one of the components I've always heard about, most important on resveratrol, called sirtuin?
Oh, the sirtuin, yeah, that's a big deal in the world of anti-aging. These sirtuin compounds are famous for, and not without, some conversation and discussion, disagreement. These sirtuins, it's a protein involved in the regulation of cellular processes, including aging and death of cells, and their resistance to stress.
Okay.
It is a controversial world. In fact, there's an article by, I think his name was Dang, D-A-N-G, and the title of the piece was the controversial world of sirtuins. It was coined from its founder, member, Sirtu in budding yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So SIR stands for Silent Information Regulator. There are 4 SIR genes identified, and it gets very, very complicated. But I could do a whole show on sirtuins, but it usually comes up in the conversations with anti-aging. You have anything to add to that, Dominique?
No, there is. There are studies that have been done with anti-aging and Alzheimer's. It's a critical role of the sirtuin pathway.
Yep.
And resveratrol is in that study. The studies actually with terastillabine affecting the sirtuin pathway and then acting as a caloric mimetic are excellent. So if that's something that you're interested in, is this for you to take for your own health?
Yes, that's something I would take. I've been taking for many years.
That's interesting. The sirtuins are a family of proteins that act predominantly as nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide dependent deacylases. In mammals, 7 sirtuin family members exist, including 3 members, SIRT1, SIRT4, and SIRT5, that localize exclusively within the mitochondria. Close quote. That's from an abstract to an article, and from and I can't pull it up. I can't pull the title up here, but nevertheless, it is a real compound. It is. You'll find it in the research. It's not what. Up the LTN health question of the day. Earlier in the show, and maybe throughout the show today, unintentionally, unplanned, but it came up and we built a theme around it. This business of taking statin drugs, and they are not without side effects. And one of the side effects of taking a statin drug is that it will lower the concentration of which of the following? A, vitamin A, B, vitamin B complex, the vitamin B, the Bs as a complex.